Everyone, I am about to introduce to you author BENATAR, and we're going to be talking about her book that came out back in February called Emma and Her Selves. And this is our second talk, and the reason we decided to do it again is because the first one did so well, and I learned so much from May. And it's not easy for me all the time, like all morning, knowing I was going to have to talk about my sexual abuse and this book, and it's not easy sometimes. It's easy talking to her about it. It's easier, okay? I love talking to her, but where my mind goes before this talk, it's like, okay, take a deep breath. But you know what? I just hope that it helps somebody. That's all that matters to me, is that somebody out there watches May and I talk and they get hope. Because if I can do it, and I can still be here, and I'm 54, and I've had to live with the trauma of my childhood sexual abuse for all these years, then you can too. And I really just, that's all I want to do is pass on hope. So everyone, again, here is May. Hi everyone, I am so excited because I am speaking again with author May BENATAR, and we are talking about her book that came out back in February called Emma and Her Selves. And everybody saw the cover of it with my intro, so they'll be seeing that. But I want to thank you so much for talking with me again, because I feel like we still have so much to talk about. So hopefully we'll wrap it up. I don't know. We'll see. So I want to hear about your journey. We talked about a lot about me the last time, so I want to hear about what you went through with Emma.
Well, given that it was treatment that took place over 2 decades, it's a chunk of my adult life.
Yes.
I was in my 40s when I started working with her. So it's a long arc of learning about dissociation and about people with multiple selves and about trauma. And the work in writing it really helped me to integrate the experience, because there is a fair amount of chaos and crisis in this kind of a treatment, because the parts aren't always cooperating with each other. Mostly they're not. And there was some aggression toward me, anger. So it all took a toll, but I was very attached to this client. I probably still am. And so the balance was okay for me. The stress of treatment was balanced with my real affection for her and all that I learned. I mean, it was a great learning experience and really the capstone of my career. I think of it as, one of something I'm proud to have done and glad to have done.
Well, when I was reading some of the comments today on Amazon, I went to go look at them, and it seems like this book has helped so many therapists. And I was like just smiling for you, because, just writing it down in a book form and for other people to learn from you in what you had to do. And I'm sure even before you wrote this book, there was lots that you helped a lot of people in the medical profession and therapists, and, in dealing with somebody, especially Emma, who was so complicated. I don't know that every patient is like that for who have DID, but hers was it seemed very complicated.
Well, I think that's really an interesting question. I'm on a listserv with other therapists who deal with this kind of condition, and it's really very difficult to deal with. But you're probably correct that there's a continuum of some clients that have more awareness of their parts and have more cooperation between their parts. But my goal is not just to help therapists, but to educate lay people about this the phenomena of trauma, how common it is, how it affects us, how we are wired really to adapt with the use of dissociation, how we see this in our everyday life. And actually you see it on the front page. because, we are quite familiar with abusers who otherwise, in other aspects of their lives, seem to be good people, pillars of the community, right? Have you
Right.
heard that phrase?
Yes.
But I thought he was a pillar of the community. But he was abusing little boys, or he was
Right.
raping little girls. um, and those are parts.
Yeah.
A person could be a good husband, a professional, a successful professional, and a pedophile. So part of my mission, you might say, is to educate people and to present a paradigm of parts that helps us explain ourselves and explain some of the phenomena that we have to deal with in our public lives.
Right.
I don't remember if I mentioned this in the first video that we did, but I mean, there are public personalities like Bill Cosby is a really good example uh, of someone who is highly esteemed in his professional life, and he might have been a really good father, for all that we know, but had this other aspect of his personality that was pretty outrageous, to say the least.
Yeah. Right.
There's a kind of segmentation of
Yes.
self that happens.
Right. You know what? And I really found that with my dad because everybody, like, he was the guy at family parties and everybody loved, he had that magnetic personality. And it, as someone who is his victim, it was really difficult to make people understand that this person, which I understand with the women that came out about Bill Cosby, because at first everybody's like, no, how can that guy have done that? And so it's almost like it's common, it seems common that.
Well, yeah, I mean, the idea of the mind being modular,
Mm-hmm.
That we come in parts in a way, and the difference between someone who has had extensive trauma and the rest, and people that haven't, is not so different. It's about how thick the walls are between parts. So your father may well have had thick walls between his parts.
Right.
The good guy and the rapist or the abuser.
What was interesting is, and I don't know, for other victims if this was the case, but I could tell if I came home from school and I looked in his eyes, I knew he wasn't there. I could see it.
Yeah. Well, that's a really good example.
Yes.
And I think the more sensitive people are, or the more oriented, you might say, to the idea of parts, the more you see it.
Yeah.
I worked on this book with a writing group, mostly of lay people, non-professionals, writers, not psychologists or therapists. And thanks to them, I was able to make this more user-friendly. It took a while for them to get it.
Right.
What? Parts?
Right.
What are you talking about? It took, but that was helpful to me as a writer to make it as clear as possible, as transparent as possible.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, okay, you go into the one part, because I reread this book again, okay? Which every time you reread a book, you see something different. I mean, that happens no matter what you're reading. And the part that I really enjoyed or, was intrigued by was you talk about memory, childhood memories, and you talk about your childhood memories. And I was wondering, I wanted to hear what what you thought. Like, my first memory of being abused was at the age of 2, okay? And I have a really clear memory, okay? Wow. And nobody told me, and there are no pictures, and, so that imprint, I only know how old I was because my brother was born. So I remember where he was, so that's how I know the age, okay? Wow. So... Wow. Why is it? And then we can't remember yesterday. Like, there's something about that. Like, what is that?
Well, trauma is stored in a different part of the brain than ordinary memory.
Okay.
And in hearings that actually the last time we spoke, the hearings were going on, the
Yes.
cabinet hearings. People were struck by the fact that Blasey Ford could remember, was quite certain of what had happened to her, but didn't remember who brought her to the party, didn't remember whose house it was at, and so on. The laser focus is on the trauma. You take that snapshot and it's clear.
Okay.
The rest of the stuff doesn't have to be, it's not stored that way. It's really stored in a different part of the brain. And we lose it. I didn't remember, in the book, my memory, the memory that I work with there is about the swamp in back of our house and how afraid I was of it. But I didn't really remember being afraid. It was just sort of in my body. A lot of our memories are especially traumatic memories, are in the body. And the work that therapists are doing now, trauma therapists, are much more attuned to the body and getting the patient to go back into their body, because you get cut off from that. That's going a little bit away from your question, but I think it's an important aspect of memory that's often not thought about or neglected. So I think that answers your question. It's a storage issue.
Okay.
And trauma is stored. If they put you in an fMRI machine, you could see that. You can see that. Wow. That as people talk about traumatic memories, or the parts that hold traumatic memories, different parts of the brain light up. Than what you ate for dinner yesterday, which you probably don't even remember.
Right. I always wondered that, because in a way it made me feel like, did it you wonder, like, is that a true memory? Is that true? Like, you question that memory. And then, and
other people question it too.
And other people question
it. As we saw.
Right. Because people are like, you can't remember something when you were 2. That's not possible. And it's like, well, I was in a crib. I know where I was. I know, like.
Were you verbal at 2?
I don't know.
Could you find that out? Because that might.
Parents are gone, so probably not. Probably not.
Yeah. But because that would help with imprinting the memory. But some people's memories are more accessible than others. But even if you didn't remember it, didn't have a picture of what happened or a story of what happened, it's in your body.
Right.
So you may not, the memory gets broken into pieces sometimes. Right. But the body has the story. Bessel van der Kolk, who's a trauma scholar, a giant in the field, so to speak, his book is called "The Body Keeps the Score," and he's got articles with that. The body keeps the score. That tells you the whole story.
Wow. Yeah. I'm like processing that, because I'm just like, wow, that is...
You don't need the rest of the book,
Yeah. Yeah, you do.
And that's why working in the body is so important, because that's where it's at.
Interesting. And the only thing I'm really thinking about that from is that both my parents died from pancreatic cancer, and which we know is not like that, for both of them to have it. It's very interesting.
Unusual, yeah.
Yeah, unusual for both. And when they diagnosed my mom, the doctor had come in, and she was terrified to tell me what it was, because you have one parent with pancreatic cancer, your chances of it, but you got 2, which she knew that was my case. She was like, it's high. It's really high, but they both were alcoholics, and they were both drug users. So
that'll do it.
Yeah, they had some things that I don't drink and I don't use drugs. So, but just for those reasons. But I was wondering with them, even, is like how they processed their stuff was.
That's an opportunity for me to make a comment about substance abuse and alcoholism, because that's a way to cover or deal with dissociation. Do you know
Mm.
what I mean by dissociation?
Mm.
That cutting off part of yourself. But Emma had extreme dissociation.
Right.
And if you it, if you drink or you have a drug problem, it's often a way to cope with parts that you can't otherwise cope with, or emotions that you can't otherwise cope with. So those two things go together:
Right.
parts and substance abuse.
Right. Well, I always felt that with him, especially. He
Yeah,
could that's how he disassociated from, because I do think that after reading your book, I'm like, I really do think that he had parts. I really do, which is
yeah,
how he could, and like you said, like Bill Cosby, other, because they could go out and be somebody and then be this other person, and maybe not even be aware as much as we think they are, aware of that other person. Who knows? But I think with my dad, that really was the case, you
and
know?
you could see it.
And I
You
could
could see
see
it.
it. His mannerisms changed, his eyes changed, they glazed over. It wasn't the father daughter like loving. It was like this other person came over him, you know?
Right.
And now that I know that, it actually makes it a little bit easier because I don't know, it just
It
does.
makes sense to you. Yeah.
It does. It makes a little bit more sense that it wasn't so proactively mean or some, like,
Of course not. It couldn't
right,
be.
right.
Was it facilitated by alcohol?
Yes,
The switches?
yes. A lot of times, most of the
Yeah.
time, I'd have to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely say that. So, it's like, that's why when I read your book, it's like I get more and more, I feel better, it makes it, which
I'm
I
glad.
really want to tell people out there, like it does. And, I would be somebody that would be so easy to trigger, that I would back away from anything that were to, throw me into a panic attack or, anything like
Yeah.
that. And instead, your book like was comforting. It was knowledge. And sometimes knowledge is good. Like, don't back away from the knowledge, because for many
That's
years,
really good to hear,
yeah.
because that was my mission.
Yeah, well, a lot
That-
of times I wanted to back away from knowledge. I wanted to ignore it. I wanted to just, as part of my past, as something you don't have to deal with at some point in your life, you could get over, right? I mean, isn't that, are we supposed,
well, you make meaning from it. You integrate it. I'm Gail. You know who Gail Sheehy is, who wrote Passages?
Yes.
She did a book on the 9/11 widows.
Mm.
And when she was interviewed about the book, she was, she was asked by the interviewer, how long does it take people to get over losing their spouse at the World Trade Center? And she said, you don't get over it. You just integrate it. You make meaning of it. And I think that that's true.
Right.
We don't have an eraser. We just have ways to be more peaceful with our parts, basically.
Yes. Yes. And you said that in the book you mentioned that you had heard from Emma
Yes.
when she
She
turned.
read the book. She read the book.
She read the book.
Yeah.
How was that for her?
Well, she was gracious enough to give me permission to publish it. But I think it was hard for her to read the book because we're no longer working together. I moved, which I discuss a little bit in the book, and I had to leave her. And that it just reminded her of that wrench, that painful separation. It may have also triggered memories for her of her own abuse. We didn't discuss it in detail, but initially she really liked it, and then I think it was more distressing to read it. But I'm very grateful that she let me tell her story. I couldn't have done it without her permission.
Right, absolutely. And, the fact that she seemed to have gotten better and, she's still here, like.
Yeah. Yeah. No, she definitely got better. The parts grew up. There were fewer at the end of our work and they seemed to be mostly communicating with each other and cooperating with each other, and that's really key. But the work is never. I was still in New Jersey. I'd still be working with her. It's lifelong.
You do believe that's what was my next question, was whether it was a lifelong progress for her.
Say again with
That was my question, was that, that it would be lifelong, like there was no end
yeah.
to therapy for her.
No, I think that she could make more. She could make more progress if she continued, but she wasn't to continue with anybody me.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't take on someone with her diagnosis today because there isn't enough time left. I'm too old, basically.
Wow. Wow.
And I wish she were working with. I wish she was willing to accept another therapist because I think it would be helpful.
Yeah. That's interesting to know that it's not, so it's not like it's this quick fix, like therapy for 6 months and you're, like it's just
No,
not that way.
no,
Yeah.
no. We keep growing and changing, and just as the analogy that I like to use is, you're never too educated, right?
Right.
You never stop. Hopefully, you're always willing to keep learning, and it's just another kind of learning experience and growth producing experience.
And I do
But
feel like, yeah, I do feel like now, even though there's so much out there that turns me off, like about the Me Too movement, sometimes I get all like, I don't want to be that. I don't know. I don't want to be part of it in a weird way. But, I think everybody reacts differently. But I do feel like there's more for me to learn, when I thought that I didn't have to learn anymore. Like now I'm like, after reading your book, and I'm like, okay, so knowledge doesn't have to be scary, I guess. It's like, it can actually be helpful, and I don't have to do the things I don't want to do. I don't have to, like, not that I don't mind talking about it. I just don't want to be part of this, like, celebratory, I guess, part of it. I don't know. Who knows?
or the activist part of it, it's good that you know what works for you.
Right. Well, and I think everybody, right, exactly. Everybody's going to be different in that respect, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
And I think childhood abuse is a different animal than, if you've been assaulted as an adult,
Hmm.
manipulated in some way, harassed in some way. That's horrendous, but the imprint on a child is quite different. So
Yeah.
your child parts don't really want to go there. And
Right.
that's fine. It's good that you know how to protect yourself.
Right. Well, and that was another question when I was reading that about the memory thing, was that to know that it was traumatic also at age 2 is also very interesting to me, because, it's like, how does a 2-year-old know if it was like normal or not normal? Like, but to understand, I understood on some level because it did imprint. So,
Yes.
it's weird that you would think that, well, if you didn't know any different, why would it be different? But it obviously, there was something that in my brain was like, this is not normal,
And the body is wise in that
bodies.
regard. In that
Right.
regard, that when you're overwhelmed.
Right.
And this is a trusted person. This is a person who's supposed to comfort you. Yeah, we don't give children enough credit.
Or yeah, like maybe it was like the vibration that I got from him, that I'm sure of it now that I'm thinking about it. It's the energy that he's also
Right,
presenting,
right. Do you have animals? I don't, but
Not
I
right
know
now,
people
but I have.
with pets,
Yes.
that say that their dog knows when a bad person comes to the door.
Nice.
They read energy.
Read energy. Yes.
They read energy, and children are the same. They read
Right.
energy.
Oh, that makes me
Um,
feel so much. I feel so much better now. Like, just even talking that little bit out, it's like, oh, okay, that's it. Because I questioned that for so long. So, I really hope this helps people out there. I really do. Because for like you said, for those of us who have childhood, and it was like situations that we couldn't control, we had no control over. Living in a house with somebody we were afraid of. That changes you, as
it does. It does.
and
It does.
I really hope that people will get benefit from our talk, and go get your book, because like I said, I learned so much from it, and I can't. I mean, are you going to write? Are you writing something else right now?
I write some little essays, but I'm kind of in search of a topic. I'm not really, I want to be writing more, but this was such a compelling story for me, such a
Yes.
compelling experience. I haven't really found anything yet. Got any suggestions, Michelle?
I don't know. No. You can write a book on me. You can use me as a case study.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm a case. Like sometimes that's how it feels, as
yeah,
different layers as I get older. Like I said, it's like something that you think you can just put away. But I really I love how you say that about your body remembering, because that is really powerful when I think about, because I am one of those people that really believes that my body, when I get sick, you always know that it's mental before it's physical, and I'm really attuned to that, and it makes me really understand that on a different, I have to think about that for a while. So
okay.
but you know what, anytime you want to talk, May, I'm here. You want to write, you want to write a book and you want to talk to me about it, I'm here. We can always talk about this. Or you
Okay.
find something else out, I'm here. You know where to find me.
So I'm grateful to you for doing this and for getting my book out there.
Yes, and
I'm
everybody, all the
grateful.
links are going to be listed below. Thank you for watching May and I talk. And if it's benefited you, please let us know, because it does help, and I can't wait to see all the rest of the stuff that's going to come from this book. I just know, it's one of those books that's going to be around for a long
I hope
time.
so. I hope so. Do you have my website on the
I do.
crawl?
I
You
have the
do?
website. It'll be listed underneath here for anyone who wants to go over to our website, along with the Amazon link right to the book.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, May. You have a great day.
You too.
Okay, bye
Take care,
bye.
Michelle. Bye bye.
That was pretty amazing. I am so happy I got to speak with her again. She is amazing. Like she cleared a lot of things up. I gotta have to go think now, okay? Because she cleared a lot of things up for me, and her book is like that. So if you have suffered any kind of abuse, I really suggest you go get her book. I think you're gonna learn a lot. And it isn't, yes, she's talking about a specific client of hers, Emma, but I learned so much from that. So I really hope you do too. And like I said, all her links are going to be listed below here. Thank you so much for watching again. And if you enjoyed our talks, please hit like. And if you want to watch my videos every day, please subscribe. Have a great day, everyone.